Thank you for joining on Dead Headspace. I am your host, Patrick R. McDonough, my co-host, Brendan LaFaro.
Hello.
And today we are joined by Jessica Guess.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Just so everyone is aware, you can find our show on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, amongst many others. To celebrate Cirque Berserk, did I announce that correctly?
Oh yeah, that's the title.
Okay, so to kind of celebrate Jessica's first debut novel, me and Brendan are gonna each buy a paperback, and we're gonna do a giveaway through our review platform, Deadhead Reviews. The only way that you can actually be qualified is if you're paying attention through our Twitter account, which is @ReviewsHead. That is REVIEWSHEAD. The day this episode launches, June 25th, 2020, is when we will make our first giveaway. A few days following that will be the second giveaway. What got you into horror?
Well, I've been watching horror movies since, I don't know, as long as I could remember. I've always loved just, I guess, the feeling of being scared, which I know is really weird. But I don't know. It's almost like a challenge for me. I remember when I was in fourth grade, I heard people, like my classmates, talking about Freddy Krueger. And I didn't know who that was. And when they were talking about him, they kept saying, "Oh, he's the scariest." Like just kept like hyping him up. And then not long after, I saw like there was a Freddy Krueger movie on TV, and it was the second one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like I know people like to dump on it, but it was the second one, and I didn't really know the difference. I just saw it said Freddy's Revenge or something like, I know Freddy was in the title, and so I was like, oh, this is the Freddy guy they're talking about. So I watched it, and I wasn't scared. I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. And I went to school the next day and I was like, I saw it and he wasn't that bad. And they kind of looked at me like I was weird. But after that, I kept thinking, okay, let me try and find something that scares me. And when I do, I feel like it's a win. If something does actually terrify me or scare me in some way. And even if I'm not scared, I still think of it as a win. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen a horror movie that I have seen some that I've hated, but it takes a lot for me to hate a horror movie.
Speaking of the second one, because I am a huge slasher fan, and I started when I was 12, but I'm a 90s kid, so I was way late from the time they were actually theatrically released. And Freddy, I just took it at surface level because I started watching it when I was a teenager, and then it wasn't until I started going on the internet to look at like horror-related topics where it seems like like most horror movies, there's a pretty deep message in the LGBTQ plus community with number 2 in particular.
Yeah.
I just thought it was pretty interesting. Like, you got the cliche built up toxic masculine rage from this gym teacher that is a very closeted homosexual, and it's just the stuff that he pulls on his students to how he is handled by Freddy. I think it's interesting. My particular favorite scene in that movie is where Freddy Krueger jumps out and he's at the pool party, and it just I was thinking when I was first watching, I'm like, okay, that's fucking terrifying. That's scary.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the one where this scene always like sticks in my head, where like he like bites a girl's ankle or something like that, and then later on there's like maggots on it.
Yeah.
And like that I remember that scene has stuck with me for years. But yeah.
All right, so are you big into horror movies?
Oh yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Is it safe to say that slashers may be up your alley?
Absolutely. Slashers are definitely, they're like basically what I cut my teeth on, I guess you would say. So like, yeah, they have a near and dear place in my heart.
Who was your favorite if you had to pick one?
It's always a toss up for me between Freddy and Michael Myers. I like Freddy's personality more just because he actually talks and because he like, he fucks with his victims more. He like, plays on their fears more. But I will say if it was actually scare factor, Michael Myers was the first slasher that actually terrified me.
That's
When I was, yeah, yeah.
that's
Like
definitely fair.
it was, I remember the day, like I was watching, I think it was, weirdly enough, I know that people don't like the fourth and fifth one, but they used to come on TV all the time, and I
Hmm.
watched one. And I remember I was doing my homework. I was by myself, like my mom was still at work, doing my homework, and the lights went out while I was watching it. And I said, "Oh no!" I literally ran across the street to my neighbor's house, and I stayed with her until my mom came home because I was like, "I can't do this." Like he's in the house. I know he's in the house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I particularly like 4 and 5. It's
I
number,
love them.
but my favorite one is very much so probably everyone's least favorite who does like the series. Well, one of them is number 6, Curse of Michael Myers, and
Mm,
I mean, come on, you got Paul Rudd in there who's actually in a serious role for the first time I've ever. He was the first role that I saw him where he wasn't being silly, and I thought he did
yeah,
well. And Michael,
yeah.
I don't know, it was a super duper creepy movie. I know they cut a lot out and it's supposed to be focused on like some cult, but
Is that the third one or the? Which one is that one? The
that's number
curses.
6. Number 3
Oh, it's
didn't
a
have
six. Yeah,
Number 3 didn't have Michael in it.
yeah. That's the one with the mask, the little kids in the mask. Okay, yeah, yeah. I get them mixed up in my head sometimes.
Yeah, and
But
we
yeah.
actually were talking to Ken McKinley, who runs Silver Shamrock Publishing, and that's where that name came from. And on the logo, like in the television show, how
Hmm.
it's all like the black and white snowflakes on the old TVs.
Hmm.
That's on his shit. If you look closely ever at a Silver Shamrock logo, that's what is the pattern in the Shamrock.
Oh wow. Okay.
We didn't, we didn't know that until we asked. I got one more question, and then we can jump back to your writing. Black Mirror. I did see that you're a fan of that.
Yes.
I love that show. Did you happen to see the Netflix special Bandersnatch, where it's choose your own adventure?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
I liked it well enough, but I don't know that. Okay, I like the fact I like anything different, right? I like that
Sure.
they did something different with that, and that they tried to make it more interactive. Because I sometimes wondered what is like the next step that people are gonna do to try and make like entertainment like that more interactive or whatnot. But at the same time, I do know that, or this is at least what I've heard, is that because of the way that they did Bandersnatch, that's kind of why we didn't get too many episodes in the latest season.
Oh,
And I don't know if that's true. That's just, I feel like I read that or I heard that somewhere. And if that was the case, I'm not sure if that was really worth it because this last season, like, it only had like 3 episodes. And in my opinion, 2 of them were not that good.
which one
So
did you like?
I only liked the first one, Striking Vipers. Um,
Remind me, what was that again?
That's the one where the guy and his friend go into the video game and they become. I mean,
Oh,
spoilers. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And
yeah, yeah.
it just goes from there. And I really liked it. I did a piece on it or like a write up of it for my website because I really liked what I thought it was trying to say about black male sexuality and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm a straight white guy, so like I don't have a whole lot of room to a whole lot of ground
Hmm.
to stand on as like personal knowledge. But I grew up with one of my first best friends as a child. His parents were from Vietnam.
Hmm.
He was super flamboyant, like it was so obvious he was gay.
Hmm.
And when they found out, it's super sad. But they like I don't know how many days I was a little kid, but they made him sleep outside on his trampoline when they found out he wasn't straight. And even as a kid, I'm like, that's your kid though. I don't get
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
sad. It's very
it
sad.
is. Yeah.
Um, sorry, I cut you off. I think.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that, like, I think that, I mean, almost every culture nowadays, because of like the widespread of Christianity and stuff like that, just has like such a problem with LGBT, that kind of stuff. But it seems like, especially when you're a person of color, it just your parents, they kind of seem that they don't want you to be that because you already have so much going on. And I think it's even worse for, I guess if I had to say, I would think it's even worse for men. And black men, I feel like, get it really badly because, like, there's this whole thing about, oh, you got to be a man, like, it's like their masculinity has there's like no room for anything. And you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to show your emotions or whatever. So I don't know, that's why I found that one so interesting, was because I feel like it was kind of trying to loosen those constraints in a way.
For sure. Yeah, and the whole thing about, and I promise I won't preach long about this.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised Roman Catholic, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not practicing anymore because, like, look,
Yeah.
if a religion, and I'm just gonna say, for any of them, tells you that this person can't be loved because they love someone else for a different, like, race or sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
that's not love. That's not what I
It's
want to
not.
follow.
It's not, right? Yeah.
So, Brennan, how about you hop in and ask her the next question? Because I'm kind of branching off too much, I think.
Oh, no worries, man. See, no, I was kicking back and just listening because I've talked about it on the show before. I'm not as well versed on horror movies as Patrick is, so I'm sitting there, a little bit lost in conversation. But I kind of like the tangent that we just went on. I went from being a little bit lost in the conversation to sitting back here just pumping a fist in the air. You go, man. So, Jessica, we wanted to ask you about kind of your first, I guess I would go public endeavor, the Black Girl's Guide to Horror. Tell us a little bit about how that started.
So basically, I was in an MFA program for creative writing, and 2018, May 2018 is when I graduated, and I had been looking for a job since January. I was really trying to not come home to Florida. I was really trying to, get a jump start on everything. And by that July, it still wasn't going anywhere. And so I needed like an outlet for just something else to think about, because like I was that was literally where all of my energy was going by the summer, especially, was searching for a job. And I needed an outlet. And then also I rewatched the movie All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. And if you, I tell everyone my love-hate relationship with this movie, because it's a slasher movie. It's set in Texas, and I think it has a really great premise. It has like what could have potentially been an awesome horror movie. I felt like it could have been an awesome slasher with like the reveal at the end, but they drop the ball in so many ways that it pisses me off to know. Like I rage about it all the time. And so I was like, I can't bore my friends again with this. So let me write it down. And then I just started writing about horror movies. I love talking about them. And so like after that, I was like, well, I don't think that there's too many. I don't know of too many other sites that are, talking from a Black woman's perspective about horror movies, about horror, like TV, horror media in general. And because I do love horror, like, and I write in horror, I thought it would be a good place for me to just, you know, give my thoughts about things, my own analysis about things, in that genre. And then sometimes I branch out. Like my last one wasn't about horror at all. It was about Superman. But, just give my own analysis and my own take on things. Basically, it's where I kind of like go and voice my own opinion about whatever media I'm consuming.
There's so many, I dug into it a little bit, and there's so many interesting takes on the social commentary behind horror, because let's face it, that's what horror is. I mean, the best horror is you could even argue the best fiction is all social commentary, and
Right.
it can be very easy to read it, to watch it, and to just digest it on such a surface level. And it's kind of cool that you from what I read, don't really do that. You're like, we're gonna go deep, so grab on, here we go. um, and I love that. I wanted to put out there, and if you don't want to talk about this, we can always cut it later. But you had mentioned that you were thinking about starting a Patreon for stuff along those lines. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, this is literally an idea I just got this morning. Well, I've thought about it before, but I never actually put forth the effort because I was just like, oh, it's going to take time. But I'm thinking about, well, I am going to start a Patreon within the next few weeks. And I kind of want to expand on what I'm doing with Black Girls Guide, but I don't want to just put that content there because I already do the analysis for free with the website. I think what I'm going to do with my Patreon is more so for, I mean, people who still want to hear my commentary. I'll do videos and like post about that, but I'll also talk about the horror genre, writing in the horror genre, and then also writing in general. Because I think that there's some things that would help some writers. Like I've done lessons before. I'm also a teacher, by the way. I've done lessons before with, things that can help in creative writing. Like, for instance, I have like one lesson. I'll give you like a preview here, but I have one that's called the zombie element, and it's about how to raise tension in your story, in your script, right? And it's based around the whole idea that a lot of times, most times, 9 times out of 10, zombie movies aren't usually about the zombie or the zombies. They're about how people, like it's really people that are the villains in a lot of these movies, right? But the zombies are kind of what exasperate these people's villainous sides, right? So, and if you notice, I especially noticed this in 28 Days Later, every time the tension was low in that movie, a zombie would appear, right? It happens in The Walking Dead too. Like every time, like everything's all great and it seems like our heroes are fine, zombies appear and they attack. So I kind of took that idea and like put it, like I started looking for it in other movies and other shows, other stories and stuff like that, and came up with this idea of a zombie element. And in one of my videos, I'm going to talk about how to create that and how to put that into any kind of story you're writing, whether it's a script, whether it's horror, whether it's literary, whatever, to like raise the tension, because sometimes that's a problem that people have about like keeping that tension high.
That's excellent. And stuff like that is really perfect, I think, for nowadays. I'll give him a shout out. One of my favorite Patreons that I'm a part of is Glenn Rolfs, and he'll release stories monthly, but kind of my go-to there. I love the essays on writing, and it sounds like you'd go more of a kind of interactive video format. And I feel like as a rule, we're almost maybe not getting past the point where we're going to go out and buy an entire book on writing, but just to get to be able to kind of pick and choose. Yeah, this is what I want to be able to do in my stories, and this is going to kind of pinpoint that. It's going to target that and give me some really, really great ideas. I think it sounds to me like a great addition to, not even an addition, but something to do in lieu of Black Girls Guide to Horror.
Right, yeah, because that's all the Patreon would be. It'd be like like I said, an expansion of that, but also in addition to going like and analyzing media and whatnot, just helping people who want to be creative to be creative. Because I think my problem was before I went to the program that I went to, I had all of these ideas. I had so many ideas, but my biggest problem was I didn't know how to write a novel. I didn't know how to, like, I kept trying and I would get like I don't know, 15,000 words or like 10,000 words. And then I'd be like, I have gone nowhere in this many words. Like I'm literally rambling. And so structure was my biggest thing that I needed to learn. And it didn't matter how many books I read. Like they always say, oh, just read. And it's like, no, it's actually harder than just reading. Like I personally needed someone to sit down and tell me, okay, this is how you structure it. I needed a formula. I needed like a way that I could see someone like plot something and actually make it come to something. So I feel like mine would be like a condensed version of that because not everyone has the time and money to go to an MFA program. So yeah.
That's a good point. Well, before we talk about Cirque Berserk, did you write a lot of novels, short stories? Was there a lot of trunk stories, or not even necessarily trunk stories, just manuscripts that you have written before Cirque Berserk?
So, long form, I would say long form, this is only my second long form thing, like completed novel. And that's including my MFA thesis, which is my first, like the first one that I actually started, drafted, and revised and finished. But I've written a lot more short stories. So I've written flash pieces. I do have a publication in Luna Station Quarterly, and that one was like, I mean, it's definitely horror, but it's more like literary horror, I guess you would say. But, you know, that's about a girl in Jamaica who uses basically obia, which is Jamaica's version of voodoo, to like handle a problem that she has. So like I've always been writing, you know, but usually it used to be more so short, whereas like lately I'm getting a lot more long form ideas. Yeah.
So when you were in school compared to now, actually let me back up here. I got a question that should predate that one. When did you join the horror community? I'll start with that.
I think that Black Girls Guide to Horror kind of made me join the horror community. I didn't know that there was a horror community. You know, I didn't know, like, social media is great in that way because like you can just you know, you can type in a hashtag or type in something and find all these great people. But I kind of wasn't looking for it at first because I don't know. I really have really great friends that even though they're not all into what I'm into, they listen to me rant and like gush to them about things. I remember when I first saw The Descent, I called my best friend and told her the whole movie and why it was amazing. And we were like 15 and she just listened, you know? And she's just like, oh yeah, sounds great. Like she's a fraidy cat. She does not watch horror movies at all, but they'll always listen to me, you know, and yeah. I felt content doing that. But then when I started Black Girls Guide, like, you know, I would go on and other blogs started following me and I started following them. And then like it sent me down this rabbit hole. And then when I got Cirque Berserk published, I got introduced to even more like horror writers and women horror writers and people of all like who are like in various places in their journey in writing and writing horror or whatever. But that's kind of what got me into the horror community.
Okay, well that's funny. I mean that sounds like a similar story for most people, especially me and Brennan. I mean, I think Brennan joined like a year ago, and I was kind of in it for like since 2013, but I didn't really dive in until like a year ago. And that's when I became a reviewer, and then everything blew up, and then you keep diving deeper and deeper, and this person knows that person who knows this awesome story, who knows this great book, who knows this great article, and
right.
It's just it's amazing. It's a web of amazingness.
Yeah, I would say so.
So the way that you approach writing during your MFA program, has that changed? Have you had a lot of different ways to approach writing, or has your process perhaps changed after your MFA program since you've known writers and maybe picked up some tips from writers?
Yeah, I think it definitely changed. I before I used to like be more of, you know how they talk about like pantsers versus plotters, like, you know, people who write by the seat of their pants versus people who plot out.
Yep.
I used to just like pants a little bit more. Like I would want to know certain things, but I would could kind of just write and see where it took me. And that used to be part of the problem, is that I would write myself into these corners. And like I would forget about character. I didn't write anything else down but the words on the paper, right? like so that's kind of why I used to get lost a lot. And when I went to the program, I started to become a little bit more organized with things, right? I definitely plot out, especially for a novel. For any long form, I have to plot it out. If it's short, I still do pants a little bit, but I still know where the story should go. But I don't feel a need to like write it out as much as I do for a novel. I feel for like longer form, you have to know it. There's so many moving parts, and it's such a big thing that you can't. For me, I can't just like let it all, you know, flow out in the wind. It'll get lost. I'll forget things. Even for Cirque Berserk, in the very first draft, there was one character who I switched their name halfway through and didn't even know until one of my readers was like, "Hey, what happened to this guy? And who's this guy?" And I was like, "Oh, oops."
Who were they?
It was Kevin. I started calling him Kyle.
There's no Kyle in that book.
There's no Kyle. It's okay, you know. So yeah,
You know, I love Stephen King, but the more I like find more non-white guys, and just gonna put it bluntly, more diverse voices I find, the more I'm like, you know what? He was it's like with me. I've got best friends from certain stages of my life. Like my best friends right now are my forever best friends. I met them in my 20s, but I didn't know them until I was in my 20s. My best friends when I was a child, like growing up, I don't talk to any of them anymore for various reasons. And I'm bringing this up because Stephen King was like my favorite ever. But then I learned about other better people, in my opinion. And this, I'm getting a little off track. I was gonna say that like I've heard ways that he just pantses everything, but
yeah.
like I don't get it, because like hearing everyone else talk, and I've heard a lot of other writers talk, sure he pants, but have you read a Stephen King book and how long it is? How does he keep that shit together?
I have no idea. I mean, I really especially. I mean, we all know like Stephen King. He used to have like a drug problem or whatever, and like
Yeah.
I know that he said that he would like write while like that. I don't know how. I don't know how. Like I can't even be kind of tipsy while I don't know how. Like
Have you tried?
I have. I literally just started giggling and like, well, I was, you know, I was like, but I just started giggling and fell over and started eating brownies and didn't worry about writing anymore. I didn't even bother. Like, you know, I didn't even go back to that. So that's not my method. So I don't know how he does it, honestly. But yeah, I don't know how, because like his books are huge.
Yeah.
Like his books are huge, and there's, like I said, so many moving parts. I don't know how he does that, but you know, everyone has their method.
I've been drunk to try it, and I've tried other brownie approaches, and I look at it the next day, I'm like, who's the crazy fucking drunk bastard that wrote this? Doesn't even make sense.
Exactly.
So, Cirque Berserk. I self-admittedly tell you that I have not finished it. I tried today. I had my day off at work, but I have a kid. I have a
Yeah.
kid, so I'm not complaining. But I only got to 80%, but I love it. I think it's great. It's I really do. It's such a fun book. It's really fun. It's very gory. But that's, I think, what you were, and I don't want to speak for you, but as a reader, that's how I took it. That's the whole point. It's just a fun slasher movie, and maybe there's more deeper meanings to it, but I would like to know how it started, why you wrote it, and how you got hooked up with Eddie Generous at the Rewind or Die series.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I love slashers. They are, and I think it's so great that my first kind of big, this is big for me at least. My first like publication that's out there that's like big is like a slasher. I'm so happy about that because I love them. Like I really do. I really do love slashers, and I love that I did have permission, quote unquote, to be fun with this. So basically what happened was that last year, I watched the movie Strangers Pray at Night, right? And it's the sequel to The Strangers, and that one is way more of a slasher than it is like a home invasion.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's really good, but well, to me, I thought it was really good, especially the third act. So like the third act of that movie, I think, is immaculate because they just start saying, we don't care anymore. We're going to do what we want. And like, they have amazing music in there, and they have great colors, and it's like, and there's like homages to Carrie. There's like all this stuff. And I was just like, this is so fun. And I especially like the way that they used music in the last part of that, because that's my other big love is music. And I in my head, like I love like pairing up music with like certain images and whatnot. So I went to bed that night, and like as I was laying in bed, I just got a strange image in my head of a character doing something really, really bad to someone else in some roller skates while Rhythm of the Night played in the background. And like it involves a baseball bat, and that's all I'll say about that. And I remember being so like captivated by the image that I was like, oh, I have to write about this. And so I just started asking questions like, okay, why is this person in roller skates? Where are they? Why are they doing this to this person? Why do they have a baseball bat? And then like I started thinking more and more about it, and like started writing down the plot. And I was like, oh my God, this would be a great like long thing. I was like, this can't be a short. This is going to be long. And I was going to put off writing it because I was going to try and redo my thesis to like get it to be novel ready or whatever. But then I saw that Unnerving put out the call for submissions for the Rewind or Die series, right? And I read what they wanted. I read what Eddie wanted, and I was like, oh my God, this fits. Like it's specifically set on their slasher. It's specifically set on their, 80s, 90s kind of feel. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, I've got to at least try. So once I got like 10,000 words out, I submitted like the query, and he was like, oh yeah, when this is done, send it to me. And I'll see it. And if it's good, then yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I finished it in the summer. I started June and finished it August, and then sent it to him after like, doing a little bit of revision. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And that's how that happened. Like but in terms of like, why a slasher and why like all the gore, I love gore. Some of my favorite movies have blood and gore and stuff like that. I hate when I watch a movie and I feel like, or like read a book or anything, but I hate when I'm watching or consuming some kind of media and I feel as though the people who are writing or directing or doing whatever, they're holding back on like the I don't know, on the brutality or on the goriness or anything like that. Like, I want to see it. Like, if it's horror, give it to me. If this is the avenue that we can do, give it to me. Like, I'm not like someone who goes after, what's that one genre? The torture porn. Like, I don't care for that. But if it's a slasher, I want to see blood. Like, I do. And I also thought it was important to have another element in there, because I like you guys said, like, I usually look for deeper things in horror movies and in all media, but I wanted to also see a Black girl have more of a role than just being someone's best friend, right? Rachel True talked about that in the Horror Noir documentary, because like that was her role for like almost all of the 90s was to be like the white protagonist's best friend. And I named, the character Rochelle after her character in The Craft. And that's one trope that I've like has always gotten on my nerves, because it's like, okay, yeah, we don't have a life. We're literally just there because you need a shoulder to cry on or whatever. So I wanted there to be a black girl in there who, has a main role and who has a deeper connection than just being someone's best friend. And I also wanted there to be a love story, because I also do like a little romance. So, and I haven't seen that too much in too many slashers. And I was like, I wonder if I could do both. So I did. Yeah. So that was that.
We had, on Monday, we had Violet Castro and Sonora Taylor on. And one of the things that came up was talking about how when publishers, whether it's an anthology or calls for novels and novellas, don't get a lot of different voices, whether it be women, people of color, anything like that. It's, I think it was Violet that said a lot of times that's because you don't see yourself represented there and you don't feel welcome. So what that led to was talking about Eddie opening up Unnerving's call to just women at first, receiving a bit of backlash about that, but really sticking by his guns. And I'll tell you, I've read every book in that series up to the ones that just came in the mail yesterday. And a lot of them are those the women who responded to the open call, and they're phenomenal. They deserve to be there every bit. Doesn't matter that, they came in earlier, they were accepted first. Could you speak to that a little bit, that open call?
Yeah, I agree. And I love V and Sonora. And I agree with them completely, because if I did not see that I think in the first when he said he wanted a certain percentage. I remember he said he wanted a certain percentage to be from women. And if I didn't see that, I don't think that I would have felt encouraged to do it. It's like, for so long, this genre has been very white, very, very male. And it feels sometimes like our stories don't want to be heard. Like there's no room for it. It feels like people are saying, what do you mean? Like, what? Why do we need that? Or something like that. Even if they're not, even if no one's actually saying that, from what you see, the fact that I don't see too many Black people in horror books or in horror movies, that wasn't what was pushed to me in my formative years, especially. Like I read almost every single R.L. Stine book, like when I was a teenager. Like I read the Fear Streets and stuff. And as much as I love them, there weren't, I don't think, any like Black characters in there, right? And I always remember wishing that there was. And it just feels like you're kind of not supposed to be there, And when I saw that submission, or when I saw that call, and I think he specifically said he wanted women, and I think he said he wanted women of color. I want to say that's what it said. I don't remember. But I remember feeling like, okay, he'll at least give me a chance. He'll at least like hear me out. Whereas like, I don't feel that way sometimes when I see certain calls or something like that. It just feels like it already feels like like the door is shut kind of a thing. And I know that you're not supposed to self-reject, but writing is already difficult, as I think any writer will tell you. And to like go through something and like to write, especially to write to a query, and already feel like the door is kind of already not really that much open, it kind of just makes you feel defeated already, you know? So, like I said, I was so thankful that he did that. And I remember talking to him. I was on his podcast, and I remember talking to him before, and he was like, yeah, he really wanted it to be, he said he wanted really a lot more women. But he was like, he really wanted this to feel like something that was open, to women of color. And he wanted it to feel like inclusive. And I think he did a good job of that, you know? Yeah.
And it's brilliant too, because, you know, you just talked about you being able to tell Rochelle's story and making her the main character as opposed to just, you know, the best friend or something like that. So, I mean, in Cirque Berserk, like that's a story that only you could have told in the way it was told. With Violet Castro's Hairspray and Switchblade, same thing. The dependence on both, you know, Latin culture and, you know, the strip club workers, the way that was approached, only she could have written that. Haley Piper's book in that series, only Haley could have written it exactly that way. And with 2 of these showing up in my mailbox every month, like I need those different points of view. If they were all coming out about, you know, 17-year-old white males, I'm going to be bored with this series by February.
Right.
Whereas I know that I'm going to get all these different looks at these, like, kind of, you know, B-movie novelizations. And it's I've loved reading this series, and I'm just so psyched that he's potentially going to continue it into next year.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's so many different stories out there that can be told, that need to be told. And like you said, doesn't it get boring, like, to hear the same thing over and over and over again? Like, no one's saying that never read a white male writer again. No one's saying that, but it's like, the table is big enough for everyone, you know, and it should feel like that, but it just doesn't, you know? And so, like, I don't know, there should be more. I think that if more publishing places or whoever, if they really do want more voices, more diverse voices and more inclusivity, as they claim they do, they should probably be more upfront about, like, saying that, like actually putting that in their calls for submission, actually, like, saying, yes, this is, and like showing it too. Like, if you have, like, if I go on a website and I see that you already have Black writers, like, that have published for you, or that, you know, you have Black literary agents or whoever, or Latino or whoever, like, I feel more included. But if I go on that page and it's like a sea of white, I'm like, okay, they don't want me, you know? So, yeah.
I can imagine that. You'd think, you know, why am I going to waste my time submitting to this because it looks like they're not going to give me consideration. And it would be disheartening.
Yeah.
But, you know, I want to hear all those stories. I want to see those I want to read those multiple points of view because, you know, I'm happy to read. You know, I read a great book just last month about a 14-year-old white kid coming of age. Great book, but I don't want to put that book down and pick up another one just like that and then another one just like it, you know?
Right.
I want a diverse experience.
Right. Right.
Changing it up a little bit, I actually one of my thoughts on questions on Cirque Berserk. One thing I really remember loving about it was the way you did the time jumps. I can't stand when a book does time jumps and doesn't, like, make it clear, I guess, which, you know, where you get like 2, 3, 4 pages in and you're like, wait a minute, am I in the past or am I in the present? And I've even read books that, you know, they put the year as the chapter header, but you still kind of, you have to, like, flip back and be like, you know, checking that. And I thought Cirque Berserk did such a great job of jumping back and forth between those. So my original question was, what kind of inspiration did you take, or what was your plan for that? But I guess my question kind of shifts gears to how exactly did you outline and plan all that?
So my outline literally looked like the parts. So, it's split up into parts and chapters. And I literally said, okay, part 1 will be this. And I kind of like tried to treat it like a 5-act play or whatever, a 5-act play where like by here, this should be happening. By here, this should be happening. And then within those acts, I split up the chapters and I was like, okay, if I want the audience to feel sympathy for this character, if I want them to know something about this character, I'm gonna have to put this 1989 chapter before this, right? So I kind of I structured it into how do I want the reader to feel? What information do I want them to know? I kind of just structured it by release of information. How do I want them to feel about this person now versus, in a couple chapters? And then also big things that happen. Obviously, I wanted to put them a little bit further down. So there's the one chapter where they do a ritual. That one I knew had to be a little bit later. Just for that purpose, I wanted to kind of save that a little bit. So that's kind of how I structured it. But also I know I didn't think about it at the time, but now that I think back, I always forget that a lot of people hate flashbacks. And I forget because I love them. And I don't know. I like flashbacks because if they're done well, they can be helpful. They can help tell you why a character is the way that they are. And I think that's my thing is always why are you like this? For a character, why are you doing these things? Why do you feel this way? Why are you acting this way? Why do you feel you have to do this? And I kind of wanted to answer those questions as I go. And I wanted the reader kind of to have their allegiances kind of questioned and not feel like they know, oh, this is exactly how this is going to go.
That's what good writers do. And I think that for people that have the opinion that I don't like flashbacks, period, I don't think that that's a great attitude, because you are right off the bat, without reading this book, for example, saying, not for me, when you haven't read it. And it just to back up what you said, how am I going to know about these 4 characters when I don't see them in real time? Instead of what are they going to do? Just talk about how they were? That wouldn't add up,
Yeah, exactly. I think the flashbacks are what kind of save it from being, obviously I wanted it to be a slasher and be a traditional slasher, but it saves it from being something you've seen before, and it saves it from being stale. If they weren't there, it would just be a same run-of-the-mill thing, and you wouldn't know why or when or how,
Yeah, and but by the way, let's see. All my favorite slashers have flashbacks. Halloween, the series. I can't remember. It's in the first one. Yeah, it starts off with a flashback, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, Halloween. Freddy Krueger, when we see that he's a fucking pedophile, he's burned alive, which, by the way, I wish we saw a scene of him being burned alive, straight up. I don't recall seeing a flashback of him being burned alive, but wasn't Candyman? I think Candyman has a flashback.
Yeah, I believe they do, with him, writing or painting or something,
Yeah, and then in Hellraiser 3, there's one of Pinhead, which I thought was pretty damn cool. So, I want to know, I like characters that feel real. That's going to be my number one way of how I look at a book when I review it, or if I'm just a reader. That's how I'm going to see if, hey, this is an author I want to pay attention to, because no matter what you're writing about, even if, I'm not knocking the genre, but even if it's a romance, if you have good character, then okay, I'm interested. I'm a guy. I'll flat out say this. I'm a man that loves gossip. I love TLC. That's not a great example for good characterization. but let me see a good story.
Yeah, I love TLC too. We're talking about the show, right? Like, or not the show, the channel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 90 Day Fiance.
Yes.
I watch all of them.
My wife and I watch that shit every Sunday. It's just, I love it.
Isn't it crazy? Like, they are insane on that show, but I love it.
That's why they're on TV. My wife reminds me of that all the time. And then there's that new one called Smothered, with moms that are creepily into being like super close to their grown ass daughters.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that. I haven't heard about that, but now, okay, that's going on my list.
Just one more thing on that Smothered show is there's a scene in the trailer where the daughter who's she just graduated to be, I believe, some kind of, I could be wrong, but some kind of officer. And so she's not a kid. And her mom gives her showers. They shower together.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, I'm watching that. That's crazy. Oh my God.
It's nuts.
That and stuff like that, that'll inspire a story, because I can see that turning to horror so quickly. Like what are you talking about? Shower?
Yeah, and then there's shows like what was it? My 1,000 Pound Sisters, where one weighs 600, the other weighs 400.
I watched that. Yeah, I watched that. They were funny. They were hilarious, those two sisters.
Yeah, they were. And here's the thing, like, that one of the best pieces of advice I hear my favorite writers say is, don't just read in your genre. And I take that to heart in life. Like, keep when I started really writing and reading, a fellow reader, a friend of mine, said the best part is, like, after you start really reading and writing and you look at life like that, you start noticing, at least with me, you start noticing details more, and you think like, hey, that's a good detail to remember for a story.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the way the wind blows and someone's hair billows in the wind or something like that, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead. You're the guest.
Well, no, I was just saying I completely agree. Like, I've been reading so much horror lately that I actually decided to switch it up. And right now I'm reading My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. And it's a show on HBO as well. And I watched the show and I loved it. But her language and like the parts that they take from the book and put in the show, like where there's a voiceover, I was like, the way this is written must be beautiful. And from what I've read in the book so far, it really is. And I kept thinking while I was reading, I was like, wow, I don't write this beautifully. Part of it is like, I don't think my genre allows me to right now, but I was like, I feel like there might be a way that I could write a beautiful horror, like with language that is this gorgeous. And I was like, that might be like, I don't know, a challenge for a later time when I'm a better writer, but it's in my head at least now.
You know what? I if I can give you some unrequested suggestion, which I'm reading this book about. I like reading books on writing, on the craft, because like even if I'm at the point where I'm paid a decent, like a pro rate for books, like you can still always learn. Like so I'm reading a series where it covers characters, emotions, revisions. The one I'm reading right now is strictly in dialogue, and it just reel me back. Where were we going with this?
I was talking about
fantastic language.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, I had a lapse.
It's okay.
So it was just saying that different genres cover different styles of dialogue, and they give an example from Lord of the Rings that fantasy covers different ways that you would speak. Like, you would not talk like this in our reality. So it got me thinking, like, well, yeah, that's true. So it's making me pick out how when I read different books, and that's basically coming to my suggestion, which is, why not a horror fantasy from you?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Oh, wow, yeah.
I want to read that. Like, if you built a world and then I mean, whoever wants to steal this, just make it be a good story. But if you built a world of a fantasy world, like what Game of Thrones, whatever. What if there was a smaller, isolated story where there's a serial killer?
Yeah.
And
Oh my God, yeah.
based on your book, I'd want to read that. I mean, I'm almost done. I'm gonna finish it tomorrow, but that's my very long way of saying that's why I like your flashbacks, because it focused more. It was heavily focused on dialogue, which from that book taught me that's the best way to explain stuff. You didn't have long sections of narration on like describing everything or they were this reason. So that's my argument why you have good flashbacks and you wove it in well and you play like everything was just like placed very well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and if your book was a movie, I think that Whitney Houston bats would definitely sell well during Halloween.
I think that would be awesome. Oh my God.
Like that guy from The Walking Dead, Nigel? Was that his name?
He has Lucille.
Negan.
He has Lucille.
Yeah, so I mean, like he's cool. I forget the actor's name, but like I'm a fan of that guy.
Oh, it's like Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That's
yeah.
It. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's awesome, but like if you in this book, because like slashers are so much fun. It's hard to fuck them up.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, this could be me and Brendan often talk to authors about what if your book was a movie. So I'm going to ask you that. If this was turned into a film, do you have anyone in particular? Would you want to, just because we were talking about it, and I apologize if this is like a weird or insensitive way to ask, but would you prefer having it mainly be an all-black cast, or would you have it be the reverse roles and have it just be the white friend whose shoulders leaned on?
So I wouldn't have it be an all black cast because there's certain parts in there that at least a couple of characters do need to be white right. for it to work. But I mean, Rochelle would have to stay black. Like, if anyone were to come and like, even if they were like offering me a huge deal and like, yeah, but what if she's white? I'm like, okay, bye. Like, I'm taking my stuff and I'm going. You are not changing her. So she's gonna stay white, or she's gonna stay black. And then Danny, I really want Danny to stay Native American because he is, and I thought of him that way while I was writing it. And his backstory, it's kind of important to his backstory as well. So I want that to stay that. So those two characters need to stay like that. But everyone else, like I really don't like everyone else you can play with, but yeah, those two characters especially need to stay who and what they are.
I really like that. I love how he's Native American. I need that to start getting in my brain more because like they're super repressed people still too. So like why aren't we talking? They're part of the marginalized voices, but maybe it's where I look for information, but I don't hear enough about them.
Mm-hmm. That's always been something in my head. Like ever since high school, I don't remember what, I think we were reading about Andrew Jackson and about like his reign of terror on them. And I remember thinking, I've never met a Native American person and I don't see their stories that much. And my mom is a big Western fan. She loves John Wayne. And I remember like one day I was just watching it with her around that time and I was like, I know they would not be happy about this. Like about how they're being portrayed in these things. And like I will say when I went to I did my program in Minnesota and I met more indigenous people up there, specifically from the Lakota tribe, just a few, but I met more people there and I learned more there. And especially when the whole thing was going on with Standing Rock, and stuff like that. So that's always been another thing, like, this place is theirs. Like, why don't we hear more from them? Like it's not that they're not trying. It's just that I feel like like us all, their voices have been pushed to the side so much and like suppressed. And yeah, it's you kind of have to look harder for them.
Absolutely. Andrew Jackson, maybe I'm wording this wrong, but he's one of the most interesting presidents to me. But I don't say that like with a smile. He's very, he's got a duality to him.
Like horrible, but like, yeah. I mean, I don't remember what I learned about him. I know there was something about banks. He didn't like monopolies or something, or he did like he. I don't remember who I'm thinking about, but there was something good he did with like blockbusting or something like that. But then there was also, Trail of Tears and like all this other stuff that he was just a horrible villain for a very long time. So
yeah, the Trail of Tears, because of him moving Indians throughout the country to Oklahoma, I think it was him that he directly was responsible for thousands of them dying on the way there. He was the second George Washington in many eyes because the British tried to invade us in the War of 1812, and they had the North in Canada in the Mississippi River, and he was the one that stopped the British from coming up the south of the Mississippi River. He prevented them from coming up by blockade, and because of that, they did not have the British did not have the means to further take over America. I mean, so I think that's good. I don't know what the world would be like now without it.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah, sure, yeah.
And he also got he won us Florida by basically probably being super brutal and violent, and he would have got Cuba too, but he was so weathered by that point that he was just game over for him as far as leading the men to taking over new areas. But he was a psycho. Last thing I'll say about that is he liked dueling people, and at that point it was kind of an old fad. And he told this one dude when they were dueling, he said, "You shoot first." The guy shot him in his chest. He didn't make much of a reaction, aimed and shot him in the head. And he's a fucking lunatic.
That sounds like some sociopath stuff. Ooh, yeah.
I'm interested if we had social media back then, what kind of shit would be revealed of guys like that, or what would happen to them?
Oh, it'd be a shit show. It'd be a shit show. Like, I mean, honestly, a lot of these people, in terms of like their social etiquette wouldn't be that different from who we have in office right now. Like, they probably were more educated and they probably would say it more eloquently, but a lot of their politics would be the same. Like, Thomas Jefferson is a horrible fucking person. Like, he's like horrible. Like, yeah, but that's not what we're taught about them. And so like you get this idea in your head when you're learning this revisionist history about, they got us, Louisiana Purchase and da da da. But it's like, no, he also was a rapist and, had slaves that he mistreated and, raped and all this kind of stuff, and fathered however many children with her. And like, then her brother, I read about her brother recently, where apparently even he ended up killing himself because like Thomas Jefferson sent him to France to learn culinary because Thomas Jefferson loved France and like French food. So he sent his slave, Sally Hemings' brother, to France to learn specifically how to cook like culinary, like French cuisine, I should say. And he went there and like he was living a little bit better. And then he came back and he was a slave again, and he couldn't take it, and he ended up killing himself.
Jesus
and
Christ.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, don't learn about that when we're learning about the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, I mean, how the fuck do you think we got that country? We brutally killed a bunch of natives that were there for like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of years. I mean, I hate to say this, but I only know of one author. It's Stephen Graham Jones. That's a Native American, and he's clearly well loved, but there should be more. And there's so many different tribes. So there's so many different belief set they had. Like the Wampanoags, for me and Brennan, they were part of the tribes in Massachusetts, the areas that me and him are from. You got King Philip's War, which is that was pretty rough, where they ended up killing a lot of their people. But there's this one massive swamp called Hockomock Swamp, where it used to be referred to as I think it was a swamp of evil spirits. And it's just, I don't know, it's just got all interesting history that I would love to see turned into horror stories.
Yeah, and I will agree that specifically for the horror genre, I think that Stephen Graham Jones is the only Native author that I know of. I'm sure that there are more that I don't know, but for other genres, I know Joy Harjo. She's a poet and she also writes memoir and stuff like that, and I really love her stuff. Oh, and you know what? Susan Power, she's Lakota, and I actually met her, and she's great. I guess some of her writing could be considered horror a little bit. No, yeah, it definitely could. So she has one called The Grass Dancer. So yeah, Susan Power is another person who's a great Native writer.
Oh, okay. You know what? I kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you happen to have any advice for aspiring or newer writers, particularly for any marginalized voices?
Don't be discouraged by the things that you see or by like how it may seem right now. Like things are getting better, I think, right now. And I want to say, write what you want to write, not what you think will get published, not what you think will make your community proud of you, not what you think will, I don't know, sell. Write exactly what you want to write, how you want to write it, and put the people that you want to put in there. And don't be afraid to be different and be unique. And yes, you'll sometimes get discouraged from like people who don't get it. But just keep going. Just keep going and keep trying. That's literally all I have.
I love that advice too. And I mean, it's just the whole idea of write the story that you want to tell or that you want to read, because that's what's going to come out in your voice. If you try to change it around to be something that a big publisher is going to want to buy, it's not going to be original. It's not going to be your voice. It's not going to be your story. And even if it, were to go to the distance, it's not something you're ultimately going to be proud of.
Right.
Just those, right back to our Rewind or Die chat. It's that your point of view is unique. Any aspiring author, your point of view is unique. You have not had the exact same set of experiences as anyone else, and only you can tell your story.
Right. That's exactly right.
So, Jessica, I'm curious. Now, you mentioned that you are a teacher. And I also am a teacher. I do kindergarten through 5th grade music. So I am genuinely curious. Do your students know about, your horror writing?
My last crop, I did tell them. I think my last 2 crops of students. So like this last spring semester, and I think the semester before that, because I got published, right? And I was just too excited. I was like, yeah, I have a horror book out. And like, I saw like some of the looks on their faces. They looked horrified by that. So they didn't even know what kind of horror it was. They were just like, what? You write what? And like, I don't know. I think it's because I think when people first meet me, I've heard people call me sweet, but I don't consider myself sweet. It's because I don't know the real me, but whatever. But my teacher face, I do try to seem nice until I'm grading. And I think they just were surprised by that. And I guess they also, I don't know, maybe they think of horror writers as like mean or like, scary or something. And I don't really present that way. So they were just really shocked.
is it high school level for the most part?
No, so I was an adjunct professor at a university in Miami for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to be teaching at another university in Miami full time. So I basically teach usually college freshmen because I teach English composition.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different versions and I teach both of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. I mean, it probably would go over a whole lot better than me telling a class full of 5-year-olds that I just, got a story published where, someone's head gets ripped off. They wouldn't like that. Parents would probably be even more pissed.
Oh, definitely.
What if there was one kid in the class that was like, tell me more?
Yeah.
Where can I buy this? I'm glad you asked, Jonathan. That's excellent, though. So you had, a lot of them surprised. Anybody who you think will go out and grab a copy of Cirque Berserk?
Oh no, not my students. No, most of them like didn't even want to read the assigned readings that I tried to make interesting. Maybe there's one student who would, because she was interested in creative writing and she was interested in but she was more so like going the romance route, I think. But I don't know, maybe. But if it's not her, then yeah, no, none of them.
I got a question for the two of you pertaining to writers and teachers. So like I really love the Lord of the Rings series and all the other books that connect to Middle Earth, and I love biographies. So I've learned a lot about J.R. Tolkien. And he was an old man when the trilogy came out, and he was still a professor. I'm just curious, like he got so popular, like the book series. It seems like it rivals with the popularity of the movie series as far as how popular it's been. He needed an assistant to like help him with like the mail and all that stuff. So I'm wondering for the two of you, because Brendan's a writer as well. Would you two rather be in a position where you're getting books published and it's fine, you're getting paid a fair amount, or would you rather be in a position where you're so famous that like it might be a little difficult to even plan your next few classes?
With the fame one, am I also stupid rich?
Huh. I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure how much money he made. I'm sure he made a good amount. I don't know how much he made, though. I don't know if he's kept teaching because that's all he's ever done for decades, or if it's just that, like, he couldn't afford it. I'm not sure. I know that he was super famous when he was alive, though.
So if it's that I actually have to keep teaching, keep it. No, I don't want fame like that. I don't want fame at all, really. I want money. That's what I want. I want to keep publishing for the rest of my life, and I want money. All right. That's it. Like, I love writing. It's what I will do it even if I'm not, like, if I don't get rich, I'll just keep doing it because I love it. But ideally, money. Like, I don't want the fame. Yeah.
Patrick, I'll give you the most like boring, imagination-free answer possible. Sure. I have pretty good health insurance. Truth be told, though, I get paid to go into a classroom, or at least I used to go into classrooms, and play guitar and jump around with a bunch of like 5 to 10-year-olds and act like an idiot. It could be worse. It absolutely could be worse.
That's a pretty sweet gig. Okay, I respect those answers. I gotta go with you, Jessica. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want the fame, honestly. Just like leave me the fuck alone. Let me write, and just talk to my assistant, and maybe I'll never get back to you.
Exactly.
Like, here's the thing. I can't speak for any other writer. For me, if I was in that position, just let me keep writing my books. Don't ask for a fucking sequel. I'll tell you if I'm going to write it. And let me just enjoy my time with my fellow writer friends at cons. And, like, if you want to talk, I would sign your book. So forewarning, apparently I'm a fucking dick, but like that's how I would see it.
I mean, I don't blame you. Like, fame is, I don't know. I just don't want that. Like, I want to be able to like go out and be not have to like. I want to go out in my hair bonnet and not have to worry about being seen. You know what I mean? I don't want to but I want the money. Like, I don't mind. Like, even now, people are like, tagging me and stuff, and I don't mind that. Like, sure, I don't mind, but like to actually get to the point where you're recognizable, oh no. No, I don't want that at all.
Like Eminem says it and this is the only guy I can think of on the top of my head. I love that guy, but like, as a rapper, but he says it in one of his lyrics that he can't even go to a Kmart without being recognized. Like, come on, like fuck that.
Yeah. When he's out and he's feeding his daughter, yeah, I remember.
And there's other authors that I've spoken with. I'm not gonna name them because I think that'd be weird if they heard it and they're like, why the fuck did you bring me up in that? So I'll just leave it at that. But there's some authors where there's people on Facebook that are fans of that author and they seek out, oh, well, you're cousins with this guy I like, and I'll add a friend request your wife and your daughter who's a teenager. And look, if someone did that to me, I would get pissed and tell them to fuck off forever.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, no, that's...
And I'm not talking about, like, super duper famous people. Like, they're good authors.
Mm-hmm.
But they're in the indie horror community like us.
Wow. See, yeah, that's too much. That's too much. No.
I don't. You do always have to account for the weirdos. We've talked about this before, but I don't even put pictures of my kids up on Twitter with my little platform, and magnify that and forget about it. There's a lot of weirdos out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And the funny part is you think that a lot of we get the perception from other people that horror writers are the weirdos when they aren't. We're a loving tribe.
We are, yeah.
It's everybody else that's wrong.
Yeah.
and if one of the people try to come into our tribe and are dicks, we're gonna throw them off the island and swim with the sharks. So let's get back to you, Jessica, on your writing. Music. You said that you're a big fan of it. Do you listen to music while you write?
Yes, I do. Not all the time, but especially if I want to get in the zone with something, I do. So with Cirque Berserk, I had a playlist of the music that was featured in there, but also of other 80s songs to get me. I was like, especially for those flashbacks, okay, think 80s. And like, I would just listen to a lot of synth, a lot of like, stuff like that, to help me get in that vibe. But usually I don't listen to music with lyrics. That was the only time I've ever done that. Usually I listen to scores. So like, the big one I used to really listen to a lot was the Attack on Titan score.
Wait a minute. Can we talk about that show real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is it that very fucking few people know about that show? It's so creepy and good.
It's so good. It's so fucked up. It's so gory. It's so... like everything I love is in Attack on Titan. Yeah. I think sometimes people just have a thing against anime. Like if some people don't like anime, so maybe that's why. But most anime fans have like at least heard of Attack on Titan.
If they don't like anime, I say you're doing a disservice for yourself. You know what? How about, do you feel comfortable enough describing the show to maybe lure in some fans? Because it needs more fans to get more seasons.
Yeah. So Attack on Titan is basically the story of the main character's name is Eren, and him and his friends live in this village that is surrounded by these walls, right? And the reason they're surrounded by these walls is because outside of the walls, there are these huge creatures called Titans, which they look extremely creepy. They're basically like people, but they're extremely naked and they're always smiling for some reason. And if they get into the walls, they like to eat people. So there's a lot of destruction. And this happens in the first few minutes, so it's not really a spoiler, but basically something happens to one of the walls and they get in. And so the rest of the story is kind of uncovering what these Titans are, why they are the way they are, and how to fix this huge problem.
That's perfect. Yeah. That's a lot better said than I would have. So I saw all of season 1. I think I want to say Netflix, but I'm probably wrong. Season 2, Adult Swim, since it's through Adult Swim, they had season 2, but it was only like a bunch of random episodes. And there was this one where the fighters, they were getting attacked, and then this one woman is getting like torn apart by these Titans, and she screams out for her mom. And I'm just thinking, holy, that made my skin crawl. It was so creepy.
Yeah, there's a few scenes in there that are just gut wrenching. Like, there's some inspirational scenes too, but yeah, there's some that are just horrific. Like the first episode, the way I knew that this was a show for me was like, once again, not very spoilery, but the way that Aaron's mom dies, whoo! Like, I was like, that happened. I was like, you know what? This is my show. I'm gonna keep on watching.
And then the other cool thing is how they have the real life or real time movies. I know there's 2, but I've only seen the first one.
Are you talking about the live action one, or are you talking about like the side anime ones?
I'm talking about the live action one.
Okay, I saw that. Yeah.
I thought it was good. It's just like basically everywhere you go, there's these giant naked things that are smiling at you.
Yeah.
And I tried picturing how that would play out if it were like in our reality, and I'm just thinking like, okay, sign me up for a different simulation.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I saw like it was like some question. It was like, if you had to be in one reality, and like which one would it be? And it was like Attack on Titan, Walking Dead, or like what was the other one? Some other hellish one. And I was like, definitely not Attack on Titan. like that's a no. That's off the table right now.
So yeah, I just had to talk about that real quick because like I don't hear enough people talking about that. That's just a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
Any horror reader or fan should watch.
Yeah, and the reason, kind of going back, but the reason why I chose that score is because the score is as good as the show, and like especially if you're trying to write an epic scene, if you're trying to write fantasy at all, or like something with a battle, or something with someone like gearing up to do something great, there's some songs on there I think that will get you in that headspace.
I appreciate that because even though I love that show, I never stopped and thought, hey, maybe I should listen to that while I write. I actually have a suggestion, and for someone, if you're interested, that he is, I don't know how he words it, but he is a ambient musician or composer. It's all free. He has, I'm looking at his album list. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow. Okay. He's got 42 free albums, and his name's Gimu. It's Gimu through Bandcamp. Gimu, Gimu. And I randomly found him because I needed more scores to listen to, because I can't listen to vocals when I listen to music when I write too, but I just can't listen to vocals sometimes.
Same.
So I looked on Bandcamp for ambient musicians, and he came up, and his Twitter was private. So eventually I was like, dude, can you unlock it so we can talk? And he's just super nice guy. He's from South America, and his music, it's phenomenal. Some tracks are 12 minutes. The shortest ones I've seen are like 3 minutes, and there's a lot of different tones. So I would recommend that.
Okay.
And then The Last of Us is pretty good too.
Oh yeah, I love video game music. Oh my god, yeah. I was another score is the one from Alice Madness Returns.
I'm ready right now.
Yeah, that one, especially if like you're writing something maybe Victorian or like Gothic, that'll definitely get you in that zone.
And that game, like when that came out and I saw the back cover of it, I'm like, I like this.
I love that game.
I've never actually played it.
It's so good.
You know what? I'll ask. I didn't have this written down, but do you ever or did you ever get into horror games?
Yeah, so not that many because it's crazy. The only thing that I am a chicken with is some of these horror games because I tried to play Resident Evil. Which one? The one where it's like they're at like it's Biohazard. That's the one.
Okay.
And I couldn't even get that far into that one. But yeah, it was freaking me out. But I've played Alice Madness Returns. I've played Little Horror or Little Nightmares. I've played there's another one that I can't remember because it's not mine. I played it at a friend's house. But I played a few. Like I'm not a huge gamer, but yeah, I've played a few.
Have you heard of this one? And it came out for the PS2, I believe. There's 3 of them. It's called Fair, F-E. It's spelled like a SWAT team where it's F.E.A.R.
Oh, so okay. No, I don't think I played this one.
It's pretty neat.
No.
There's this ghost character where she looks like Alma from The Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a whole story about where you're basically I can't remember the plot. Fuck.
Is it the one when they're like in a house and this like there's a painting upstairs or something like that? Because I played one that was like that, but I don't think it was called this. No.
But I'll tell you what, that game when I first played it, it creeped me out when I saw her because she's not in it a whole lot.
Okay. Well, I'm writing that down. I have that. Good suggestions.
Jess, we're coming up on an hour and 30 minutes, and we don't want to keep you all night, but there's a couple things that I definitely wanted to throw your way. So, obviously, you know, movies are a huge, important horror-related medium for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. What are your top 3 horror movies of all time?
Okay, The Descent. What would number 2 be? I gotta say the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And last one. Halloween. Yeah, the original Halloween. Yeah.
I am so impressed at how prepared you were for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta say, because I was trying to think, but those like The Descent will always be my number 1. Because that was I think one of the first ones that just like it stayed with me, gave me nightmares, and it had an all-female cast. And then the other 2 are just they're from my childhood, so I have to. Like, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, there's so many people out there like Patrick and myself right now who are really looking to kind of expand what we're reading and take on some different voices, some authors of color, some more women, trans, LGBTQ, whatever we can get our hands on to get these different stories. So I'm curious if you have some recommendations you'd like to throw out to the general audience of books that kind of fit that description.
Yeah, definitely.
Horror or otherwise.
Well, I have a friend, her writing name is Zen E. Rockland. You can find her on Twitter. I don't know her @ but I can find it. But she just got it's a short story that's published with Tor. And
shit.
Yeah. So I'm really proud of her.
That's
and
awesome.
Actually, let me find her @ right now so I can.
Zen E. Rockland. Where'd you come up with that name?
I have no idea. But you can find her. It's at Intelligent Twat. Intelligent Twat, I guess. But her story is called The Night Sun, and it's on Tor, and it's also pinned in her pinned tweet. So there's her. Other horror. Let me think if I can see any other horror writers before I go into anyone else. Michelle Renee Lane has a book out now, and it's a vampire book. It's called Invisible Chains, and it has to do with slavery. And I haven't gotten into it yet, but I bought it, and it's like right here, and I'm looking at it right now. And she's also a Black female writer. Who else? I mean, I always talk about Stephen Graham Jones because he's one of my favorite, but I feel like most people know him if you're into horror.
Yeah, he's like one of the top
Yeah.
authors, I'd say.
It's worth touting the book he has out in July, though, The Only Good Indians. It's a really good one.
Yeah, I've been trying to win an ARC like on Goodreads because they give away, and I can't win one. But I mean, I've already pre-ordered it, so it's fine. But yeah, so I mean, I always talk about him. My favorite book from him is The Last Final Girl. I think that's all right now for that. But yeah, for other, I'm trying to think of what I've read lately. I mean, this isn't horror, but I just read White Rose by Kip Wilson, and that is a really good book. It is pretty sad, though. It's about the White Rose resistance in Nazi Germany. But yeah, I think those are all the suggestions I can give right now.
Also, Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess is a great one.
Thank you.
So Violet Castro, she actually mentioned Stephen Graham Jones's title of that book you mentioned reminded me of a story she told us is going to be in a collection note through Flame Tree Press next year, where it's called The Final Porn Star, and like I want to see that book. It's basically or a story. I don't think that's not the whole book. It's basically it's saying, hey, all the final girls are pretty much white. Guess what? Not anymore.
Oh yes, I love V. She's so awesome. She's awesome. Violet Castro is awesome.
She is, and she's funny as hell. And we were really lucky, just like we are with you, to have her on our show because Brennan and I are very much so trying to get our hands on as many great stories from people that are marginalized voices because they're fucking great.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing the right thing.
And it's been far too long that we've really just kind of I'll speak for me, but I don't know, Patrick, if you want to chime in, but it's been far too long that we've just kind of looked at, well, this is a story I want to read, and I don't care about, what sex, what gender, what color the author is, and I don't feel like we're in a place where we can do that anymore, where we need to promote those voices because they do have a different, we talked about all this with the Rewind or Die series. And again, a couple other times, there are a lot of different stories. And if you only look to the same places to get your fiction, then you're going to get the same story over and over again. And there's just so much more out there.
Exactly. Expand your horizons.
I would echo that. I mean, that's how I felt. I didn't get it, and you know what? My eyes have been opened after. Call me a butthead for taking this long. I'm 31 years old now, but after the death of George Floyd, I mean, all this shit. After all the years of my wife teaching me certain stuff too, it took me this long to realize, like, okay, well, that's not a good answer for what Brennan just said. Like, I didn't see the big deal, but the whole thing is that's white privilege in a nutshell. That's what it is.
Yeah. You're
and
right.
I'm a little upset that took me this long, but you know what? I'm still at the point where I got a young son that I can hopefully help him a little bit earlier than I learned. But moving on to one final question, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are you currently reading?
Oh, right. So I actually just started My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I got it like 2 days ago, and I started it, and it's really good. Like I said, it's not horror, but it's about these two girls in Italy, in Naples, Italy, in like the 1950s, and they're basically from a very, very poor background, to the point where like girls usually don't go past elementary school, and they get their hands on Little Women and they read it, and they decide that they are not going to stay in Naples, that they're going to make it out some kind of way, and they're going to go to school as much as they possibly can. And it's also about like female friendships and like love and surviving as a woman and getting what you want as a woman in that time where like things were not, a lot of things just were not available to you. A lot of resources weren't available to you. And the reason I'm reading it is because, they talk about how like like you can see yourself in different stories. My best friend, who I told you she doesn't really like horror that much, she actually is the one who recommended it to me because she kept telling me that she kept seeing me and her in the book. And
That's pretty cool.
yeah, with these two, like, Italian women from 1940s. And like, and I already see what she's talking about in there because like we did come from very humble beginnings, to put it lightly. And there were times that were very hard for us both, but we always kept telling each other that we were going to make it out. And now she's like she works as a coder and she's making more money than I am, but I'm getting there, Monica. So, but we basically made it out. So yeah.
I went to school. I got my associates in computer electronics before I made a major move in my life from England, and I took one class pertaining to coding, and my teacher off the bat said, if you want to pursue this, you should plan on becoming a heavy drinker. Because he's like, I'm not joking. I do this for a living. I'm telling you, it's grueling, but you will get paid a lot. But plan on drinking a lot.
That's probably why, like, she doesn't drink, but like she keeps eating cakes. Like she keeps eating. Like, she calls me. She's like, I need to stop. I can't fit in my pants. Like, and yeah, it's a lot, but she's getting there though. She's making her money.
That's awesome. Brennan, what are you currently reading? Let me guess, 20 books and you're done already. He's a fast reader.
I finished 3 while we've been talking in the last hour and a half. So I was laughing because, as anybody, you're in Jersey. Jessica, I think you're in Florida. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm in Massachusetts. But as anybody, who knows the system knows, the specialists, the art, the music, the gym teachers are not, always taken as seriously as the other teachers. But so I have 25 classes a week of music and 5 classes a week of technology, which is basically teaching coding to first and second graders.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
No, actually, well, okay, yeah, no, that's a very fair reaction. But I mean, at that point, it's not, what adults might think of as coding. It's basically games where you're just kind of giving directions, or they give you directions and you kind of have to sort them out as far as putting them in the right order and stuff like that. It's kind of cool, though, to me that they start that all the way in like kindergarten and first grade, because that is definitely a skill that's going to be a whole lot more useful than, say, cursive in 15 years when these kids are adults. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
As far as what I'm reading, though, I just started Hell's Bells by Lisa Quigley. That's book 8 in the Rewind or Die series that came in the mail yesterday. I'm reading The Gray Man of Smoke and Shadows by Todd Sullivan. He's an author who, I don't know if he was born in the United States, but he moved to the Far East to teach in Korea, in one of the Koreas, and his vampire books are kind of fit the model for extreme horror, but they're also set in like I guess it's South Korea because they're set in Seoul. But they're kind of a cool series. I'm on book 2 now, and then I'm also reading Let's Play White by Cheshire Burke, which I think I mentioned that on Monday's show, but I'm 3 or 4 stories deeper now, and it's a collection. This is definitely one I'm going to be happy to recommend when I'm done with it.
The cover looks cool.
Yeah, Patrick, you'd really like it. You should definitely look into that at some point. What are you reading? Anything different than last time we talked?
I'm just finishing up Jessica's book, so I'll be done with that tonight or tomorrow. And I am diving into Robert Ford and Matt Hayward's Penny for Your Thoughts. And that's where I'll leave it, because for all I know, we're going to have a new guest on in a week from now, and I got to read that book in 4 days and not finish it. But one thing I wanted to ask, as far as cursive goes, is it just me, or is it like the hardest thing to read? Because my mom, whenever she writes a birthday card out for me, I'm like, okay, I say to my wife, "Can you fucking tell me what this says?" I don't know.
Do you know why? Because they don't teach it anymore. But do you know why we had to learn cursive in like third grade?
I didn't pay attention in school, so I got no idea.
I won't pretend to be an expert on this, but it has to do with the fact that you used to have to dip your pen in the ink, and it was a way to write where you didn't have to lift your pen from the paper. So, I mean, as far as outdated things in education, like that's numero uno there. But no, they don't teach it. Yeah, I learned it in third grade, and I'll bet you guys probably did too. They don't teach it in third grade anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't use a feather and quill or quill and
not
ink?
A quill, but like, the type of pen with I can't think of what it would be called, but like I can picture the metal end of it with like this kind of intricate like scythe almost design that you would have to dip in the ink before you wrote.
Yeah, just text me that so I can understand it.
Yeah. I can picture what you're talking about, but I don't know the name.
Yeah.
Jessica, where can people follow you?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at JessIGuess90. And also you can follow my blog Twitter, which I'm actually not on that one as much. I always need to remember to switch over, but it's at Black Girls without the I, so GRLS Horror. And also my website, blackgirlsguidetohorror.com.
Awesome. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. Thank you guys for having me. This was a great conversation.
For sure.
Our pleasure. And any people who are looking to promote their horror movies and want Jessica to dive into the characters and the social commentary on them, get them to Jessica, and she'll be happy to do it, right?
Right. Right.
And maybe this is the perfect time to throw this out there, because you and V kind of opened my eyes with like, well, we look at who's in a building, or she used the analogy of a bar. So far, this is the 17th episode recorded. I'd have to think harder, but I'm pretty sure most of them are white. That's not the look that we're trying to get. We're not against white people, but we do want to be very diverse, because there are so many good stories in all corners of this world. So if you feel like you fit that bill, please reach out to us at reviewshead, REVIEWSHEAD, or follow me on Twitter. That's PRMCDONOUGH. Or follow Brennan, which is...
Oh, me? Oh,
yeah, I don't remember it.
Oh, come on. It's at What Happens Next, no T in next 5. I found out that I have the option to change it to at Brennan LaFaro, but I have so many places where it says it that I haven't pulled the trigger yet. So. And Jessica, thank you for putting up with us white boys trying to figure out what the hell we can do to just try and make this world a slightly more tolerable place, which is exactly what Patrick and I are, working through right now.
Well, I mean, I think you have a good start here. Like, listen to Black people, listen to people of color, and be aware of your privilege, and also, teach your kids, so yeah.
For sure. And if we ever need help, we got our great friend Elena Vigliano, who's like, I refer to her as Lady Gandalf, because she's all wise, all knowing with everything, it seems. Just a reminder to everyone, if you do want to have a chance at winning one of 2 physical copies, physical paperbacks, I can't talk, of Cirque Berserk, make sure you follow along at Reviews Head on Twitter. We will announce the day that this episode airs, June 25th, later that afternoon, to tell you how you can enter. A few days after that, on our blog at deadheadreviews.com, we will tell you how you can enter in the second one. You can only win one per household. Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate you giving us your time.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
We are in your mind. We are all around. You are now leading